Hey everybody, I'm sitting here with Annie Allen from the Starting Over Stronger podcast. Annie, it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So before we get started, I know you're relatively a new podcaster, starting just over or just under a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
like 9 months ago, back in July here, and you have a unique niche that I want you to explain it in your words because I won't probably do it justice. But starting over stronger, who are you talking to, and like, what's your goal for the podcast?
Okay. Well, my target audience is women facing divorce, and it really is just that general. If that's not specific enough, I guess. I think it is.
Yeah.
But, it's not that a man can't listen to it. It's
Mhm.
just that, I speak from a place of experience, and I find that oftentimes women are more likely to feel overwhelmed and under equipped, I guess,
Mm.
for going through a divorce. They feel really lost, and I just, because I've been there, I can relate to that more. So that's who my target audience is. But I do probably have male listeners. There's a ton of great
Sure.
content on the show with regard to the practical process of going through a divorce, tips and tricks, and just things you need to know,
Mhm.
and then encouraging stories as well. So it's probably really good for anyone.
Awesome. And what was kind of the background of you starting this podcast? Like,
Well, it
why?
started with really just having a heart for kind of coaching, consulting,
Hmm.
counseling role in people's lives. I am in real estate and I specialize in divorce real estate. But as I got to know more and more people through that process, what I was finding was that women, especially, were needing so much more than just real estate consulting,
Mm.
which in and of itself is valuable because a lot of times decisions are being made about the house without really regard for a lot of the facts of the situation. And we can fully inform that decision with the
Sure.
consulting work that I do so that there's not mistakes made that lead to foreclosure or bankruptcy or various other
Hmm.
things, after the divorce. So that's an important part of it. But as I got to know many women through this, they all needed more. I
Hmm.
ended up in just organically in a coaching role with a lot of these people, but I hadn't monetized that at all. And so I actually then learned about the certification for divorce coaching and went through that program because I wanted to have that credibility with my clients that I am trained and certified. I know what
Hmm.
I'm doing. I also have the personal experience of having been through a divorce. And so I'm able to handhold as they go through the divorce
Sure.
process and oftentimes save them money on their divorce because I'm a lot cheaper than an attorney.
Mm.
And mostly attorneys really want to just stick with the facts and the business of the divorce. And a lot of times, especially women, we get really caught up in the story and we want emotional justice for the
Sure.
wrongs that are done. And that's not the place, for
Yeah.
your attorney or for the process of divorce. And so coaching deals with a lot of that stuff.
Hmm.
And the podcast is just another form of that. It's a
Yeah.
way to get the word out to more people that there is help as you go through your
Hmm.
divorce and there is hope for a better life after.
Yeah. So how long were you coaching before starting the podcast then?
Probably between a year and 2 years.
Okay. So what was then the like, you know, it could be just a natural progression, but was there a light bulb that would be like, man, I need to start a podcast?
Well, actually, it wasn't my idea. I do a lot of networking, and
Mm.
I actually was just networking with someone who is kind of a partner, a referral partner with me
Hmm.
through, helping women in divorce. And I was just kind of explaining the different angles of what I do, the real estate consulting and then the coaching.
Hmm.
And I happen to mention that my degree is in professional writing and communication.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know, just clicked in their mind and they said, you should have a podcast. And I mean, I'm like, instantly, I was like, you're right, I should. That would be awesome. And so that was actually January of 2020 that was said to me. And I really started thinking about it, but really
Mm.
was just mostly doing a lot of thinking. I wasn't
Yeah.
really sure it was going to happen. But then, how 2020 went
Yeah.
and things slowed down and got crazy and everybody's at home. And it's like, what now? And so I had more time on my hands, basically, is what it
Mm-hmm.
comes down to. And I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
And so I just started jumping on pages on social media and getting to know other people doing it. What are you using for this? What are you using for that?
Yeah.
And just started little by little. And the thing I learned really quickly was that's all you can do is just start with what you got and just get a little bit better each week. And you got to just start putting content out and
Mm-hmm.
perfect it as you go, because I was trying to perfect it before I launched, and
Yeah.
finally it got to the
Why
point where I knew I couldn't do that.
Yeah. Why do you feel like you had that mentality? Like, I need this to be perfect before I release it.
Because I'm a perfectionist. I mean, that's how I am with everything. And
Mm.
I've just had to slowly work on realizing that something is better than nothing. And, life is just like that. You just learn as you go. And the fact is, if I just start and I just learn as I go, my thought was I'll get a year into it and I'll really know what I'm doing more, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
feel like the process is much more smooth, and I won't just be starting. I'll have a year of episodes behind me. And
Yeah.
I think people are pretty forgiving of a lot of the stupid mistakes that we make in the beginning and just the
Mm-hmm.
equipment issues and all that. I haven't had anybody complain at all
Yeah.
about any of that.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is, like, it's not live, so if they don't like it, they just leave.
Exactly.
And podcasting as an industry is overall relatively new. There's more and more new listeners. I mean, has a long history, obviously, as an industry, but
Mm-hmm.
it's picking up steam. So there's a lot of new people kind of learning with you,
Yeah, for sure.
and stuff. So, was there any fear starting it, or was it just time and,
It was
getting the
like
perfect?
99% fear.
Yeah.
And 1% figuring out what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
So what about like your expectations going into it? First 90 days, did you have an expectation that'd be like, this is how many downloads I'm gonna have, and it's gonna be great, or it's gonna be awful, and then what
I don't
actually
know.
happened?
As far as like results, downloads, and followers, I didn't have a concept of that. I just decided to just see what happened, really, is kind of how I looked at that. But I did have some expectations that haven't necessarily turned out to be the case. And one of those was I wasn't going to launch until I had 10 episodes recorded and at least 5 of them edited and ready to launch,
Okay.
And that was true for about a month and a half. And then, life happens. And currently I need to edit the episode that's going to release next Wednesday in what is that, 5 days?
Yeah.
So I have got to get busy because I actually have had some issues with editing, like you talked about earlier. I have tried a few different people to edit for me, and it's not that they aren't great people. It's just that I never could find somebody that I really felt like was editing the way I would edit. And I'm not trying to perfect it because I don't want to take away the organic nature of the fact that we sometimes start to say one thing and then change our minds and say something else, or we stutter a little bit, or, have whatever, and lots of sometimes, but it just comes down to wanting it to seem and wanting it to be organic and real for people to listen to. But then also, sometimes there's things that go on that I feel like I have an obligation to my guest to make them sound as intelligent and credible as they are. And sometimes when there's real, bigger flubs or whatever, I don't mind taking the time to get rid of those, to polish it and make it enjoyable to listen to, because I know that I enjoy that as a consumer of podcasts.
Yeah. I think every editor edits to the type of podcast they listen to. So that's kind of unique there. Okay.
And I started to say, so I had other people doing it. And then just through a series of different situations, I'm now the one doing it. And I have a coach myself. I feel like coaches need coaches. And so I probably will always have a business coach. And she and I have been talking about the fact that, we really want to understand every little nook and cranny of a task before we outsource it. And so even though I did do some of the early editing, I thought, she's right. I'm introducing new things. I've got ads that I just started producing this last month or so, and trying to figure out where to place them in the episode, which ones to place where. It's a lot of detail work that really I need to do. And so it really has worked out okay that I'm the one doing the editing right now.
For sure. So you had that expectation of, you're going to have X amount, edited and stuff in advance. That's not the truth anymore. Is there any other expectations you had when launching that maybe came true or didn't?
No, I don't think so. I feel like I really had, I was ignorant enough about it all to just not have a lot of expectations, to just be like, you know what, whatever happens, happens, because it's okay if it doesn't go well. It's not my primary source of income. I wouldn't think that anyone would get into podcasting expecting to make a living on it anytime soon, unless they're famous. But, I knew, I guess, enough to know that it's not good to have expectations. It's best to just do what you can do every week and improve as you go and see what happens.
Yeah, great advice there. Okay, so we're talking about monetization, and it sounds like there's kind of two streams of monetizations from your podcast now. Just recently taking on some sponsors, and then obviously the nature of your podcast and business aligned. So there's hopefully some carryover from listeners to clients and stuff. So starting with the listeners to clients stream. Do you remember when the first time you realized that, hey, I got this client because or with the help of my podcast?
I can't even remember who the first one was. I don't know why, because actually probably because I wasn't really tracking in the very beginning where my clients were coming from. I've started to implement some of that, but I just know that as I've gotten to know some of them, I have discovered that they are also listening to the podcast. And a few of them have said, yeah, that's how I found out about you. I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, that's definitely the goal of it. I mean, I love being able to just give this content to people at no cost. And I want to continue to be able to do that. And so that's why I started rolling out the sponsored ads last month or in February, just because I thought, what does it hurt to ask? The worst they can do is say no. Yeah. I was already interviewing all of these people on the show, and all I'm doing now is just saying, hey, if you want, you can sponsor the show with an ad. And probably about 75% of them are taking me up on it. So,
wow. Yeah. So the way you're approaching, this is probably not the right way to say it, but approaching sponsors is actually through your guests, and probably the other way around. You're approaching your guests and then asking them to sponsor. What is that conversation? Go back to the first time you asked. What was that like?
Well, that started out with just deciding, hey, I'm going to go ahead and just put this out for all of the former guests, because in February I was on this episode 30 something, and I was like, okay, I can start now and just start asking the people going forward, but why not go ahead and just ask all the people that have already been on? And it turned out that those were my first sponsors, was people that had been interviewed on the show back in the beginning, in July, sure, August, September of last year. And, have seen it grow over the 7 months it's been in existence, and, felt like it was of value to their business to be a part of it. And I think just kind of want to sponsor it because they see the vision and the effort to try to get important information to people who need it, and they want to be a part of that. So,
yeah. So what was the conversation then like? Did you say, hey, would you like to sponsor my show? I have this many downloads, that kind of stuff. Or did you leave that out of it? Or
no, I shared some graphics that showed from Buzzsprout what my stats were for number of downloads and locations that it's going out to, because that was when I had actually gone in and started kind of looking into it myself and found this tab that said locations. And I could see that there were at that point, I think 14 countries. And I was like, what? I just thought I was doing this here in America. And so I was really surprised to see that it was going across the world. And I shouldn't have been, I guess, because it's the internet, but But yeah, so I just kind of said, hey, here's where the podcast is. I'm really excited about this. I thank you for your participation in it. And if you're interested, I would love to have you sponsor the show. And here's what that looks like. And like I said, I would say probably out of the first 30 that I put it out to, probably maybe 10 took me up on it. Yeah. And, who knows? The others may have meant to, and the email ended up at the bottom of their inbox or something. Sure. You just never know. I'll do some follow up with that. But then going forward, basically, I secure a guest interview and then I ask them if they would like to do that. And I make sure they understand that they don't have to. I'd still love to have them on the show regardless. So.
Okay. So you asked before you do the interview. Then. Okay.
Yeah, after I've scheduled the interview, but before it happens.
Okay. Cool. And at that point, I would assume you give them, kind of the download numbers and that kind of stuff too.
Yep.
So talking about the download numbers, I know you sent me a graphic here that over the last 9 months, or from the beginning of August, you've had 3,863 to be exact downloads. Over 41.
Well, that's such an old number, Jase.
Yeah.
When did I send you that?
On the 12th, March 12th.
I just hit 4,000 yesterday.
Awesome.
So that was an exciting day.
What kind of the first couple episodes, what were you getting a week compared to now? What I
have not figured out how to do is to track that, like week 1, week 2, week 3, to see if there's growth. But it really fluctuates from what I can tell, because it really depends on the content of each episode and how much that other party in that particular episode helps me to promote it. And I've had some that are really engaged in helping me cross promote. And then I've had others that they don't share it at all. So that affects the download numbers. I can see it very easily.
For sure. Yeah. I'll have to show you after the show here how to look at those numbers, because they're interesting. And then you can graph them to see, hey, on the first 7 days, I'm over time, my first 7 days are growing, or first 30 days and stuff.
I played with some of that, but I there's still other ways that I'd like to see it just visually to know, what the progress looks like.
Okay. So I did some math, over 41 episodes. And are you a weekly show? Okay. So over 41 episodes with 3,800 downloads, or 3,863, from the numbers I have, I recognize it's bigger now. That's about 94 downloads per episode average. What are you getting, say, in a month right now? Do you know your last 30 days, or roughly?
I don't remember that. I think it's landing between 150 and 200 downloads a week.
Okay.
And that's across all the episodes. So I don't, probably the majority of that is the newest one. And then there's, some attrition from the former episodes as well.
Good. Yeah. So the point being here, if your average is 94 and now a week, and your average, and now you're getting 150 to 200, there was definitely, growth there.
True. That's a good point.
So as far as the sponsorships, what were you charging, and were you charging per downloads, or how are you setting up your prices for that?
I just pulled something out of my head. I don't even know why I came up with it, where I came up with it. What I ended up doing for now, and I hope that will grow, is each ad that you want to do is $100, and I will put that into 2 episodes, yours and another one. Okay. And so it's essentially $50 for a one minute ad on 2 shows. Cool. Or $50 for each show.
Yeah. I was talking with Leah Marks in an episode just prior to this, and she was saying that, like you, she didn't have a necessarily the price wasn't tied to the downloads. It was tied to what she'd be willing to offer that felt right for her, because at the end of the day, it's your show, and you have to, there's a cost to you to put in an ad, one on the editing side, one on just the show experience side, so you have to be willing to adjust what you're doing, for a price. And So sounds
Yeah, I
like,
just went
you
with
kind of find
easy.
that.
And basically I told him, you can do that as many times as you want. I have 42 episodes out now. You can put an ad in each one. That would be, whatever, that'd be
Hmm.
what? I don't even know. I'm bad with math.
Sure.
Nobody's taken me up on that, so I don't know what the math would be on that. But I have had people purchase multiple ads, and
Hmm.
they don't necessarily want to record more than one. They just want to put it in more episodes,
Yeah,
which works even better for me because it's less
sure.
work.
Sure. So when you say recording ads, are they recording the ad, sending the audio to you, or are you reading something that they sent?
I am reading either something that they send or I put it together by just what I know of them or visiting their website or whatever marketing materials they want to
Got it.
provide to me.
Okay.
I do give them the option if they already have something, like they've done previous advertising and they have something recorded that they like. Sure, I'll take that because that's less work for me.
Yeah, easy
so,
peasy.
so far, everybody's wanted me to do it. So.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that you were putting you would offer to put in past episodes too. I know with Buzzsprout you can have dynamic content that gets
Mhm.
you past episodes. Is that what you're using, or are you going back and putting them in and then re-uploading them?
I am what I do, I edit in Audacity, and what I've been doing is just pulling. I save all the files, so
Hmm.
even though I've got it up on Buzzsprout, I've got a backup copy on my system, and I
Yep.
just go in and edit it in, and then re-upload it to Buzzsprout.
Okay. And for those that are curious, does that affect your stats? Do you know? Like, can
I
you?
don't think so. I haven't
Okay.
seen it change anything.
Cool. Um, all right. So, um, how much revenue in total have you made from sponsors, and when did
Um,
you actually start this?
just probably what is today? March the
19.
18th. 19th. It's probably almost exactly a month ago, maybe a little
Okay.
bit longer. And at last count, I had 1,400.
Wow. Yeah. So the important thing to note here is you started this what 35 episodes in or so,
Mhm.
so you had a base, but relatively in a short time you made 1,400 from your podcast after going for 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, I can't say what the future holds, but I feel like, I could go between right now. I'm just doing mostly one ad per episode until I get
Hmm.
more. I can't see putting more than 4 ads in any episode. I don't know. I'm
Hmm.
curious what other people do, but I think I would not want to do more than that.
Yeah.
So beyond that, then the only way to increase would be to just raise the
Price.
cost for each one.
Yeah.
Oh, once it grows more, which I will
and
do.
and how long are your episodes?
They really are varying quite a bit.
Okay.
The usually 30 minutes is the minimum, and
Yeah.
the longest I've had is just over an hour.
Okay.
And I don't worry a lot about that because I know that as a consumer of podcasts, I don't care how long the episode is. If
Hmm.
I'm into it, I'm into it. I'm listening to it while I'm driving. I stop it and start it as I get where I'm going, and
Yeah. You
so it really doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, you follow the people, and it's not like you have this, TV time spot that you have to
Yeah,
fit it in,
exactly.
and stuff. Yeah, good point there. So, cool. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time here. So, if there's anything that you have learned, or maybe the biggest thing that you've learned being, 9 months in now, that you would want to share with somebody that's, already have a podcast, but they're looking to make some money from it, they're not yet, like, what would your advice be?
I feel like what I've learned is just to really get comfortable with your process first before you worry about money at all.
Hmm.
And um, at the point when I started asking for sponsorships, I had a pretty settled routine, and now it has shifted because I ended up being my own editor.
Yeah.
But For the most part, I know what I'm doing, and I have very few, doubts and frustrations and concerns with it. It's just a matter of getting it done. And I think that that's probably the best strategy is to not try to do it too soon.
Mm.
I was actually kind of worried that I was doing it too soon, and I've kind of put some feelers out here and there to try to get a gauge on that. But I just figured, even if I only do sponsored ads for right now, that's at least something. It's at least offsetting the cost that it requires
Mm-hmm.
from me to produce it. And so I'm definitely, glad that I did start it, but at the same time, I know there's a ton of room for growth, and there's other ways of bringing in sponsors and monetization, and I as of yet don't know how to do those, what to do with those. I
For
know
sure.
Buzzsprout offers something called Podcorn. I've been told don't do it too quickly. I don't know what that means. I'm kind of still trying to figure all that out. So I am definitely a newbie.
Yeah. Well, I know Podcorn, they're you probably won't get the rates that you're charging, and it'll
Okay.
be cut because they're going to charge like a middleman fee for connecting you to a sponsor and
Okay.
stuff. So, from what I've heard around the block, at least. So,
Okay. Well,
cool.
I know more now, but I honestly don't know a whole lot other than just I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm just trying to continue to
Mm-hmm.
have, growth and perfecting it as I go. That's all I know to do.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being on the show and sharing us, the insights to your podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the invitation. It's been a pleasure.